Human rights are basic standards that ensure every person is treated with dignity and respect. The state has the primary responsibility for upholding human rights. The civil and public service plays a key role in ensuring that the human rights of everyone in Ireland are protected through policy and practice. It's important that as a public or civil servant, you understand your responsibilities to uphold and promote human rights in your work. This training program aims to help you understand your role in respecting, protecting, and fulfilling human rights in Ireland.
It's a fantastic learning tool that when you see the other agencies where they're coming from.
I feel it has really given us quite a good insight into both the whole legal area of human rights, but also the practical elements in terms of how we ourselves act as public servants and how we fulfil our role professionally.
It kind of sends you soul searching, if you like, and examines your own procedures, practices.
There's a range of issues this morning on training. Any one of them you could take and build a whole seminar around.
Human rights are found in international conventions and standards. A key convention in Europe is the European Convention on Human Rights. In 2003, the Oireachtas brought this convention directly into Irish law through the European Convention on Human Rights Act. The state can be held accountable for not upholding the rights contained within the European Convention on Human Rights. Human rights are universally agreed basic standards, which aim to ensure that every person is treated with dignity and respect. Human rights are inherent. They belong to everyone. Human rights are linked to each other. They're interdependent and indivisible. So by not observing one right, you may be impacting on another. Human rights include civil and political rights, such as the right to a fair trial and the right not to be subjected to torture. They also include economic, social and cultural rights, such as the right to education and an adequate standard of living. Ireland has a duty to create the conditions to respect, protect and fulfil human rights. Key sources of rights to be aware of include the Irish Constitution, the European Convention on Human Rights, and other international conventions. The Irish Constitution sets out Ireland's core laws, values and structures, including human rights. The Irish courts have also interpreted the Constitution as including rights that are not explicitly listed, such as the right to privacy. As a member of the Council of Europe, Ireland has signed the European Convention on Human Rights. This is an international treaty that protects human rights in Europe. It is enforced through the European Court of Human Rights. Member states have a duty to comply with judgments from this court. The European Convention on Human Rights is legally binding on Ireland and has been given effect in domestic law through the European Convention on Human Rights Act 2003. EU legislation is enforced through the Court of Justice of the EU. EU law covers a wide range of issues that impact on the civil and public service, including employment and equality. The EU has also signed the European Convention on Human Rights, indicating the importance that the Convention holds within the overall European system. The principle of non-discrimination applies to the enjoyment of all rights protected under the European Convention on Human Rights. As a member of the United Nations, Ireland is also expected to uphold the UN's human rights standards. Ireland has signed up to 7 of the 9 core human rights treaties of the UN. The right to a fair trial is one example of how Irish and international law upholds our human rights. This right is enshrined in Article 38 of the Irish Constitution and is also contained in Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights. By understanding the state's responsibility to respect human rights, you can continue the civil and public service's ongoing commitment to human rights principles. The state respects human rights by not interfering or restricting people's rights. the state protects human rights by passing laws and taking measures to prevent human rights violations. The state fulfills its obligations to human rights by taking positive action to ensure that everyone in Ireland can enjoy their human rights. The civil and public service is at the front line of providing services to the Irish people. Its values such as respect for persons, accountability, honesty and integrity are reflected in human rights principles. The government is required to make policy decisions in line with international human rights standards. The civil service offers objective advice to ministers to help them create and carry out these decisions in line with best practice. The public service provides a wide range of services such as education, health and justice. These services have a human rights basis linked with international standards, and all civil and public servants should understand how human rights standards can inform their work and how their decisions can affect a person's rights. If a person's human rights are breached by the state, they may be able to bring legal proceedings against the state. As a member of the civil and public service, you should be aware of how your work can affect an individual's human rights. Understanding human rights principles and legislation will help you in your work. Understanding what rights everyone in Ireland has, including you. Human rights are for everyone. They're an essential basis for all work that is carried out by the civil and public service. By understanding rights and the rights of everyone, we can work together to build a better Ireland. The Irish Human Rights Commission delivers free human rights training and provides learning materials. For further information, go to ihrc.ie/training.